Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuhu. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you. Dear viewers, welcome to another episode of Your Questions. In our previous programs, we have discussed the life and death of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, and we have also discussed some questions we receive across the country. And inshallah, in our today's program, we will also discuss those questions we receive across the country and related to matrimonial issues, common marriage problems, and their possible solutions. I am your host, Demba Ba, for this program, and with me here in the studios, I have a missionary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, Ustaz Ibrahim Ba. Ustaz, you are welcome to our program.
Thank you.
Okay, Ustaz, we just get into the program. This individual, he asks, I was married, but my parents forced me to the marriage, and I don't love the man. So will my parents have sin for it if I don't forgive them with my clean heart?
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I think that is a very good question, because in many instances, maybe if you listen to the news or whatever, on social media, you see people who are complaining about such things. But when it comes to Islam, marriage itself is to be done with mutual consent. Every party has their right when it comes to the marriage. The person who is seeking a lady's hand in marriage have theirs, and the lady also need to be asked. She must give her consent. But in cases where things are not done like that, you would see that you have these issues or these questions coming up. And if the parents have forced someone to get married, also you need to see why have they done that. Is it in the best interest of that person? You know, sometimes, according to even what the Quran said, you may hate a thing while it is good for you, and you may like a thing when it is bad for you. And the fact that the parents have that experience in life, they must have been married for many years. They have gone through the pleasant side of marriage and the unpleasant side of it. So they totally have an experience. But that also does not give them the right to force their child into a marriage that she does not want to be in. But the sin there will come, and it will most specifically apply if you go deep and try to understand the reason behind that. Because we are told in Islam that whatever you do, you are paid according to your intentions. If their intentions were good, that is falillahi alhamd. Even if the lady does not like it, then the parents' intentions are pure. But if it is done due to other material gains, then of course they have done a grave injustice against their own daughter. And like she said, if she does not forgive them, she should learn to forgive herself first and her parents. But let me just make it clear that if she is suffering in that marriage, things are not going as the parent expected, things are not going according to her wish, if her wish is according to the teachings of the Quran. Let me just make it clear. And then she can seek for a divorce. Ladies can seek for a divorce, they can apply for a divorce, and it would be given to them.
And in that process, we call it khula.
Exactly. So the man can divorce, the woman can also say, I want our marriage to end here, and then she go look for someone else whom she think, does fit her want.
Just, Ustaz Saab, thank you so much for that, but just a quick follow-up on that. We have seen that in our society sometimes it do happens that parents give out their daughters in marriage to somebody who is in fact older than them, just for the sake of maybe, wealth or any other benefit from that man. What do you have to say about that?
Well, when it comes to Islam, the Prophet ﷺ has given us guidelines. when we are looking for husband or we are looking for wife. He said there are these things that you look for. Some people look for the person's lineage, or he's from a good family, like we say in our local language, their house, he is from a good house. But the Prophet ﷺ ruled that out. Anybody can be from a good house. We have seen the examples from the Holy Quran. The best example is the Prophet and his son. Is it Nuh and his son? He thought that son is his, and God said, he is not yours. But just take by looking at that son, you say, oh, he is the son of a prophet, so I would give him my wife. But the son refused the prophethood of his father, and he ended up drowning in a punishment, that God has brought down on their people. So it is not always what you see, what is apparent to your eyes. The house may be good. It may be the house of a very well-known scholar, but then his children might be otherwise. They might not have the qualities of their father. They might not have the qualities of their mother. So that is why the Prophet ﷺ ruled that out. And the next thing is the wealth. That too, it comes and goes. The richest families today could be the poorest in the next few years. The poorest families in this generation, their children could be the richest in the next generation. So that is a thing that is not permanent. That too, the Prophet ﷺ ruled it out. And he also mentioned another thing, and that is about beauty, about looks. Every young person have their own way of looking. Everyone looks beautiful when they are young, they are energetic, they take care of themselves. But it doesn't stop there. You pray to get old, and when you get old, all over your face will be wrinkles. So you will certainly lose, your beauty. You will certainly lose your handsomeness. If your love or your connection with a person is based on how they look, when the looks fade away, it goes with your love and your connection with them. That is why the Prophet ﷺ opted for the option that does not fade away. That is about the faith. If you love someone because of their faith, that does not fade away. Indeed, even if it does fade away, someone, he described faith, like something going up and down. It goes high, sometimes it comes low. But if it is based on that, it is not that person alone you are seeing. You are seeing beyond him or her. And that is God Almighty himself, is what you are looking at in that marriage, where you can get God Almighty, where you can worship him. That is the house you are looking for. And that is the type of wife you want to bring into your house, who will breathe that same thing into your children and your next generation. And if you are a wife, that is the same kind of a man that you want to live with, who will teach your children those manners, those religious manners, who will teach your children that religious education, that if tomorrow you people are not there, they can stand on their own and they have their connection with God. So if anybody is forcing their young children into a marriage because of other material gains, it is such kind of marriages that you hear all kind of things. A husband has killed a wife has killed a husband. Sometimes they work out in their own way, but you might never know what havoc you are causing that is deep down there, and they cannot just put it out in the public.
Ustaz, thank you so much. You have earlier on mentioned that the richness of anyone can vanish and at every point in time. And we have seen that the recent earthquake in Turkey and Syria, some people who were living in mansions and other settlements, but they are today, just for less than some minutes, they are now homeless in the society. So which shows that the wealth is not a thing that matters that much, but the faith of an individual is very important. So we just continue to the next questions we receive from an individual. If a woman divorced with her husband and she is pregnant, 3 months pregnant, but she did not know about it, the woman is in her father's compound, what should the woman do? And also if the husband is not ready to accept that child?
You know, in the first place, I would say that time of period shouldn't have met the woman in her father's house. If it is, if the divorce was done according to the Islamic law, the Sharia, that time should have met the woman in her husband's house. That is the first mistake. Now, if because of that mistake something else come up, the family should have to sit and discuss about it, because they have already violated the injunctions of the Holy Quran that a wife after being divorced should wait for 3 months in her husband's house before she would leave.
That is 3 periods.
Three menstrual
Periods,
cycles,
yes.
periods. She should wait for that in her husband's house. And I think this came into play when Asma, the daughter of Yazid, they call him Yazid as-Sakan, he was an Ansari person. When his daughter called Asma was divorced, then there was no waiting period. It was just like, I don't want you my wife anymore, so just leave. Like the common thing we have in our Senegambia or this sub-region here. You know, you are just not happy with your wife, you just ask her to leave, or she is no more happy with you, she pack her things and leave. Even maybe you are at work and somebody will just call you and say, your wife is gone. I think that is a way that we have adopted for ourselves. Maybe we must have inherited it, you know, generations after generation, but that is not the teaching of the Holy Quran. In the first place, when a person has divorced the wife, it is incumbent on him as the husband to continue providing for the wife. The wife will live under his roof, in his protection. Nothing as before should change except their matrimonial issues. That is the only thing that changed. You will feed her, you will clothe her, everything that a husband must do for a wife, you must do it.
In your house.
In your house. You cannot change that. That is the teaching of the Holy Quran. And that period also is set for the husband and the wife to know if the wife is conceived. If she is conceived, even if he will divorce her, it will be certain that the child she is carrying is the husband's child. But when that is not done and it is done in the other way around and she is gone, and it is discovered later on that the wife has a pregnancy with her, the husband can claim, I do not know where it came from, because for the last maybe 2 months or 2 months and a half or 3, she's not with the husband. So you would see that that will be a very difficult thing to solve, unless and until you have a DNA test, so it will be known who is the father of the child and whatnot. But Quran and Islam does not want people even to go to that extent. That is why that period is set, for the husband and wife to live together. They may even share the same bed, but none of them is allowed to have any intercourse with the other within that period. And if they wish to do that, then they must reconcile, and what was expected, that is the divorce, should be nullified, because they would have maybe talked about it and they come together and say, look, this was a misunderstanding, so they will sit and discuss, we need to come together again, and then they continue with their life. That period is set for that, so that tomorrow anything that comes up, it will be known that it must have happened. Like a pregnancy, it must have happened in the husband's house, and he is responsible.
Ustaz, thank you so much. I've seen that Islam have always provide room for issues like this, because taking it from the other angle or the other way is that Islam is giving somebody chance, people who have already divorced, but Islam still give them chance to come back together and then stay together. They should decide whether they should stay together or they should separate. For that important thing, something can happen, like the husband in that period that's the waiting period, 3 months or whatever, the husband may realize that, oh, he was just angry and then he decided to send away the wife. And if matters like these are solved peacefully, then Islam is indeed a perfect religion, and it teaches very important sentiments or very important things, as you have already highlighted.
You know, there are two things the Quran mentioned, two words there. That is ma'ruf and ihsan.
Mm-hmm.
If you sit together, or even not together, like you, the husband who said you have divorced your wife, you sit back, you contemplate and realize that maybe you were the one even at fault. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
You could be the reason why you even want to send your wife away. It could be your fault. Now, the Holy Quran said, you retain her bima'ruf. You retain her honorably. Even if she was at fault, if you still want to retain her, it must be done with honor. You cannot do it in any other way. Because Islam is the first known religion on this planet that has honored women to that extent. You cannot retain her back with insults. You cannot retain her back with grudges. You cannot retain her back with blames. You cannot retain her back in any other way other than with respect and honor. That is what the Quran have said. But even if you don't want to retain her, you still want to send her, the Quran said another word, bi ihsan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it should be done with humanity, it should be done with maturedness, it should be done with purity and with good intention. You must send her away in honor. You retain her either in honor or you send her away in honor, in a good manner. Now, when you look at this, you see that it is just that the two of you can no more make it together. But it doesn't mean you cannot make it together with somebody else, or she cannot make it together with another person. You know, the message the two of you are sending, whether you are coming together again or are parting ways, it should all be good messages. Now you see in most of the cases that when people divorce, this and that, especially in this age of social media, the way you know, most specifically, go to their status. You would see this one will be statusing this nonsense, this other person will be statusing that nonsense. I've seen that myself happening.
Castigating one another.
Yes. And they will go on to maybe Facebook, they may go on to Twitter, they may go on to any other social media, and you see the fight continues. This is not a teaching of the Holy Quran at all. In either way, it should be beautiful. Whether you come back together, your bond should be stronger than ever. Even if you part ways, it doesn't, the Holy Quran even in that verse said, do not forget to do good to one another. Even when you have part ways, you were once together. What is the reason of the hatred? You know, the Holy Quran, the teaching Islam has there is just beautiful.
Stas, we are going to the other point, but I have just quickly a follow-up on that. You have seen sometimes is the society, the people in that very society, they are involved in raising some bad words towards this other group of people or towards the ex-husband or the ex-wife. What is your take on that?
You know, my belief is what happened between couples is not the business of any other person. To be honest, it's not the business of any other person. In a relationship, you either say what is good to help them maintain their relationship, or you just shut your mouth up. That's what I believe. If you cannot say anything good to a wife about her husband, do not tell her anything bad about her husband, because you are planting seeds of hatred in her. And it's the same thing also that goes to the husband. If you cannot tell him as a friend or as a family member about good things about their wives, do not tell him bad things about his wife.
Thank you so much, Ustaz.
That should not be the business of the society. They should either be good neighbors, or if they want to be bad neighbors also, they should keep it to themselves. They should not share it with any other people.
Thank you so much, Ustaz Saab. I hope our listeners are indeed enjoying this program. But we just move on to the next question we received from an individual. The person is asking, what is the dua you recite if you are coming to have a relationship with your wife, and what should she also recite?
That is something very interesting. But before the dua itself, when you are in that state of intimacy, the Holy Prophet ﷺ is a very wise man. Even in that state, he seeks to remind you of God. Even in that state, you should never forget that you are doing whatever you are doing for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The prayer recite is Allahumma jannibna shaitan wa jannibi shaitana ma razaqtana. So this is the prayer that both are required to recite. It's not only for the husband, but even the wife herself can recite this prayer. Now this prayer that is recited in that when you're having intercourse with your wife, she can recite the same thing. And our second Khalifa has said something very interesting about this prayer, and that is that the prayer can take care of tendencies that are inherited, from the family. Sometimes he said, sometimes you see a family whom you know that a certain kind of skill run in their family. Like the grandfather was a skilled merchant, and the father was like that. The children became that way. In the same way too, some sinful tendencies too do manifest themselves in families. You have some who are skilled in a certain way, or you have a whole family that they are sharp in brain. That kind of runs in their family. It goes from one generation to another, from that to another. So when this prayer is recited, if there was something of that sort, which is a negative thing that was running in the family, you as a person and your wife, your children might be immune from that. But that does not mean that when you ask God to save you from Satan and his influences, and save all your progeny from Satan and his influences, that does not mean as a person now you have done everything that needed to be done. No, that is just the beginning. You have just laid, it's like a building, you have just laid the foundation stone, and then you have to build the walls from that foundation stone. And it depends how strong that foundation is for you to be able to build a magnificent wall out of that.
Ustaz, thank you so much for that. We just quickly take up our last question for this episode. The person is asking, is dating haram or halal according to Islamic view?
It depends on what the person means when they say dating. Because if you look at our tradition and our culture, like for example, children could be born in the same week or in the same month or year, and I would, for example, say, I've given your son my daughter, and it's kind of a dating. They might not see each other until they grow up. Maybe they are 15, 20 years. They might not see each other. But everyone knows, like the society they believe, they will tell maybe your son that this girl is your wife. And as she was growing up, she will also be hearing that that person is your husband. So they know that. And whenever a person from our family or yours visits, they take presents for the other person, as a form of a token, as a form of reminding the person that this was a bond that was made between the two of you since you were kids. So they give them presents. Yeah, this is from your husband to be, this is from your wife to be. And the children mentally are brought up to understand that, okay, this is what our families wants us to do. It is a kind of joining the two families together, bringing the two families together, or continuing a relationship that was already in a family. So they grow up to understand that that is a relationship, but it depends on what kind of relationship you are talking about. The Islamic relationship that is allowed, the husband to be the boy and the girl are not permitted to be in privacy, only the two of them. That is not. Nowadays we see it even done on TVs. Like you watch some shows, you see them do that, bringing maybe 3-4 men outside, and then one girl who said she want to get married, and she'll be given questions to ask maybe the men and knock them out one after the other until there remains her choice. Then they're allowed to go and sit somewhere, discuss before they come back to the show. We can see that everywhere else, everywhere on social media. But the Islamic, the extent to which Islam allows is, if you would be together too, you need to have a conversation, you would have other people around. Like for example, you have the Jamaat do it. You have this family going to visit the other family and going with their son or daughter. So the two of them will be introduced. They will sit down there. They might not even engage in a deep conversation, but they will see each other, they will know each other, and then they will discuss it as families, not as individuals. You see, this is what we are lacking. That is why our marriages are, today I love you, tomorrow I hate you, get out of my home. That is it. Because it was done between the two of you. But if it is a family, if you, the boy, want to say, I don't want my wife anymore, you cannot do it alone. You go back to your father and tell him. You go back to your mom and tell him. They may even send you back to your uncles. Go and tell your auntie so and so. Go and tell your uncle. Did you tell your grandfather? What did he say? You know, they discuss it as a family. But if it is left to individuals, like the dating that we know, maybe that is what the person is talking about. You see a girl on the street, you like her. Maybe, I wouldn't say you love her, because that's not how love grows. You admire her futures, and then you get connected, you have phone numbers you share, and then there you are going out together. That one, Islam does not allow it. But if it is what we used to know, like our traditions, the families would come together and they connect the two of you, that is what Islam is talking about even until today. The families can sit together with their children, tell them this is what we want, these are our families, we have been together for so long, we have gone through this and that. So they will look at their even marriage, if they get married, they will even look at their marriage as responsibility. They are responsible of continuing the relationship those two families had. And they will understand that any mistake that they have can result into the parting of these two families. So you will see that they will not see themselves, but they see a greater part of themselves, that is their families. But if it is like the dating that we normally see people do today, that one, Islam frowns upon that very well.
Thank you so much, Ustaz, for that. It was indeed an excellent answer, and we hope our viewers have enjoyed this program. This All Time allowed us, and thank you so much for your time. We hope to have you in our next program, inshallah. Thank you so much. Dear viewers, from us here at MTAD Gambia, I am your host, Demba Ba, with your guest Ustaz Ibrahim Ba. This is All Time allowed us for this episode. Until we come on your way again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.